Hello and welcome to Council Agenda. I'm Dan Ginden. Council Agenda is a show short series here on WMCT-TV that gives councilors an opportunity to come and talk about what's going on in their ward or on an at-large level. And today we have Ward 2 Councilor Paul Ferro. Paul, how you doing?
Hi Dan, good to see you.
It's good to see you too. Have you had enough snow yet, or you want a little more?
No, I don't think we can ever have too much snow. It's amazing. You know, a lot of folks who may remember, the blizzard of '78, think of that as a big snowstorm. Put this in perspective. The DPW commissioner was telling me a couple weeks ago that he's been here for 46 years. And he's never seen the amount of accumulation that we've had.
Really?
It's not just that we've had snow; it's just not melting.
Yeah.
And that's causing problems all over the place because there's nowhere to put the snow.
Yeah,
it's not going away, and we're not having melting. So it's an interesting challenge.
Yeah.
It's how to blow through your snow budget in 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, you guys always, when you do that part of the budget, you always kind of do it a little tongue-in-cheek, thinking, well, we're probably going to need a little more, but who would have thought this much more?
No, I mean it's. Worcester's had 63 inches in the month of January, and so we probably had at least that much here. And we typically the snow and ice budget is the one line item in the budget every year that we can actually deficit spend. We can actually spend the debt, and we normally allocate about $500,000 just as a kind of a placeholder amount, and then we authorize up to another $500,000 in debt. Well, we've already spent that. We've already had to authorize another $500,000. So here we are in early February, and we've already spent $1.5 million in the snow budget, and that's typically what we might spend an entire winter, if we even spend that. I mean, we've had winters we didn't spend the $500,000.
Wow.
So it's been, as we sit here today, it snowed again last night.
Right.
We were a little late getting started today
Yes.
because we couldn't get down here, and it's going to snow again tonight. So it's a never-ending snowstorm.
Yeah. Let's talk about the master plan. Why don't you inform the viewers about what that's all about?
Well, you may have heard people talk about the master plan, but what a master plan is essentially a blueprint, a roadmap, if you will, of how we're going to build out the city in terms of economic development over the next generation. And the master plan that we operate under now was formulated by former Mayor Hogan when he was a city councilor and former councilor Marilyn Perry back in the early 80s. So we're very much overdue for a master plan. And that essentially is saying, how are we going to develop the community in the future? Where are we going to build things? And a master plan back in the 60s was the basis of the reality we live in today, where we have the western side of the city has a lot of office parks. They sat there and said, okay, let's build a master plan around this idea of this new thing called 495 and 290 being built here. And then they built a master plan in the 80s around trying to attract businesses to come here as the PC industry kind of slowed down. And so now we kind of have to look ahead and say, how are we going to develop in the future so that we can kind of keep our tax rate for residents stable and still continue to attract businesses here. And it's really, it's very wonky and very, not exciting or sexy, but it's really probably one of the most important things we're going to be doing in the next 25 years.
Do you see a lot of communities doing that, or does Marlborough stand aside from other communities yet again with this?
I think any smart community should be doing a master plan. I think it's telling that regardless of how the city council may disagree on how we may fund the master plan or the other economic development measures, we all kind of agree that we need an updated master plan. And I think a lot of problems that communities have around us that they're not, they're hitting a wall in terms of their tax base and their ability to do things as governments is because they didn't plan ahead of time, and we're trying to be a little bit ahead of the curve. And even that, we're probably a little behind the curve. We're probably a few years behind for where we should be in terms of getting a master plan going.
And where does it stand right now? What part of the process are we in?
We just authorized in the Finance Committee $200,000 for the Marlborough Economic Development Corporation. Residents may remember that we recently passed a hotel tax increase to fund economic development. This is the first part of that is redoing and updating our master plan The master plan itself was going to cost about $150,000, and then there's about another $50,000 for support staff for someone over at the Marlboro Academic Development Corporation right here in the old Marlboro Courthouse to kind of oversee the implementation of this. And what's interesting is they're going to have a very quick turnaround. I mean, normally master plans take a year or 2 years. They're looking at a very tight deadline of September 15th to have a product back to us. Mm-hmm. So this is a circumstance where we will have some work product to look at and talk about and have a discussion with the community in the future. And I think it's something that the residents should keep a track of, because it's going to affect their property and their neighbor's property and their community for, like I said, the next 25, 30 years. Right. And I don't want you guys waking up in a year and saying, wait a minute, they've implemented this master plan, and one of the suggestions is they rezone this part of the city where I live, and I didn't really know anything about it. Well, right. You need to be aware of that.
Yeah. So it could become, in your words, like you said, it's not sexy, it's not exciting, but mm-hmm. as we go along, it will get more exciting.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it might be as exciting as static cling, but it's something that's important.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that I don't think people are going to think about on a day-to-day basis when they think about their city government, mm-hmm. but something that's going to affect their lives in terms of the taxes they're going to pay in the future. I mean, we have a split tax rate here. Every business that we have coming here to pay taxes, they pay $1.50 in taxes for every $1 fair share that they owe. So the more businesses we have building here in Marlboro and opening up offices and expanding is more of a commercial tax base to not tax residents and pay for our schools and our fire and our police and our DPW. And that's something we need to do. The idea is that we're going to need another $1.4 billion in new growth, non-residential growth, to meet the projected cost of the government over the next 25 years. And right now, we don't really have that capacity, and we need to figure out how to get there. Okay. And that's one of the master plans is to keep that residential tax rate stable and do that by growing the business side.
Okay. Speaking of growing, we've got the senior center. They're
Mm-hmm.
looking to make some changes down there.
Well, about 9 years ago, in 2002, then Mayor Morrow had a study commissioned that looked at potential places for a senior center, and they kind of narrowed it down to 3 places. The mayor has recently requested that we look at updating that proposal to kind of bring it up to date to figure out which of the parcels they looked at are still available. Mm-hmm. Are there another parcel that may have come on the market that may be more suited? So we can start talking about the idea of building a senior center. What I think people don't realize is we don't really have a senior center in the way most communities think about it. We, you ask a couple of residents, they say, where do you live? They say, I live at the senior center. Nobody lives at the senior center. Right. Okay, there's no one who lives at a senior center. They live in senior housing on Main Street, mm-hmm. but we rent, the city of Marlboro, for the Council on Aging, we rent space there. So what we're talking about is having an actual senior center community, as is like Hudson or Northborough have, where they actually have mm-hmm. dedicated building. And we need to start looking at that. I mean, it's one of the reasons we've had difficulty is we have a lot of big ticket items that we're paying for in terms of wastewater treatment plants and whatnot. Right. That have kind of hung like a sword of Damocles over our head, and it's kind of putting nicks on things. But as we're moving forward, and as the baby boom generation retires, our senior population is essentially going to double. And now I think is the right time to start talking about that. And it may not be any of the proposals that are in this actual report, but it's going to be a starting point for us to kind of reference and say, where it's available. And I've heard a lot of people say, do this in combination with a new library, or build a new library and then, renovate the current library, use that as a senior center, or some combination thereof. There's a lot of ideas out there that I think we can start looking at in a serious way about finding new ways to service our seniors.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming on.
Great.
Appreciate your
time.
Thank you very much. And we'll have you on again sometime soon.
Thank you. And I'd be sure that if people have any questions on my award, they can give me a call.
Absolutely.
Or they can drop me an email, and I'm happy to help them out.
All right, great. Thanks,
Thank
Paul.
you.
You have been watching Council Agenda. I'm Dan Ginden. We'll see you next time.